Hello, wonderful people. The last few weeks I've been responding to a family emergency and haven't been able to work in the garden as much as I wanted to. But as you can see, the garden and Mother Nature just kept moving along regardless. So I thought I would show you just how much the garden has responded to Mother Nature's call. So let's begin the garden tour. First up are the butternut squash that I transplanted. I've put in pole beans as a companion plant for nitrogen like I did last year. I'm probably going to have to come back and thin them out because every one survived the transition. Next to that are the summer squash. And as you can see, I've added pole beans to them as well. Continuing the concept of companion planting, I've put chili peppers with onions in a container, and they seem to be doing pretty well in their new home. These two large beds will be filled with tomatoes once they've gotten a little larger from the 2-cup method. The nasturtiums have come up, and I can't wait for them to get larger and start to flower. Below them are the alyssums and marigolds. I've put those two together because the alyssums will grow low and the marigolds will grow a little higher for a lot of flowers. Right next to them are potatoes companioned with onions. I'll come back and put in bush beans for nitrogen to help both. Over here is kohlrabi, companion with onions. And as you can see, some are growing faster than others. There's one that's already formed a bulb. Another that's formed a bulb. And a third forming a bulb. As I harvest, it will free up space for basil. Along with them are pepper plants, and then pepper plants with bush beans that were the ones, if you remember, I transplanted. Next are the cabbage plants, also companioned with onions. My hope is that they will deter cabbage pests. And on to the collards that are into their second year. They just keep growing. And here is my volunteer marigold along with more onions. And a sunflower plant that I've heard doesn't work well with others. But I planted one in the same place last year, and as you can see, the collards were just fine. Over in the next bed are the strawberries. And more bush beans with onions. Planting onions with the strawberries has helped with slugs. But now I have a problem with birds because the berries have been eaten from the top. So I've got to work on that. If you remember the garlic I planted, they're doing just fine. I recently cut the tops and they seem to like being interplanted with the kale. And one kale plant has been sending out babies that I am propagating for more kale plants over the summer. And more nasturtiums. I think the squirrels ate 2 of my plants, so I had to re-sow 2 more to replace them. Below that are more alyssiums, and I'm experimenting with red clover as the higher growing flowering plant. Next to them are more potatoes with onions, and I'll come back and put in a couple of bush beans for nitrogen to help them grow as well. And on to the corn plants that have come up very nicely. Now that they're up, I'll come back as well and put in bush beans and basil because corn is a heavy nitrogen feeder. Over here are the cucumber plants, paired with bush beans because cucumbers are also heavy nitrogen feeders. More cucumbers, along with, you guessed it, beans. Then more corn, where the sweet peas fix the soil over the winter. I planted the corn in rounds, with this being the first, and this the second. I might come back and companion plant red clover as the nitrogen fixer because I'm going to have a lot of beans. And now over to the blueberry bush that is performing well and even showing some flower buds. And then to the Russian kale, along with the last of the sweet peas. The Russian kale has really been growing quickly. I'll eat some, and in a few days, there's more. And the final bed is a 3-part combination. At the bottom is loofah. In the middle are beans. And at the top, more cucumbers. So far, only 1 cucumber has germinated, so we'll see. And the final bed is for the blueberry bush. I thought about leaving it in a pot, but didn't want to worry about moving it later, so I'm giving it its own bed. And that is the overall layout of the garden. Everything is growing quickly and in no time should be in full bloom for maximum production and a lot of work. See you next time.